Hey guys, it's Retro Rose here. Welcome back to another Mushy Monday. I hope you're having a wonderful time as you're watching this, and we're going to continue our Life Now and Forever demo update. Now, last time we left off, we were finishing up the Moment Wheels, where we got to meet up with the gang and ride our different bicycles and spend some time with Tamarack and Darren and Autumn, Baxter. Just the whole crew got together. But if you're new here, again, my name is Retro Rose. I play a variety of games from indie horror, cute and cozy, visual novel, suspense, action, you name it. But we're gonna go ahead and start step 2 preview. The demo includes a preview for step 2. Saves made during step 2 preview will not be loadable in the final version of the game. What? You know, that's fine. The in between. Like fall? Step transitions. At the start of a new step, you can change the appearance and identity of your character. New appearance options will be unlocked at each step as well. Anything you change here will be assumed to be normal part of life by starting a new step. You won't get comments about changes like recently dyeing your hair or getting glasses. If you choose to update your first name, gender, or pronouns, however, you will have the option to come out during the step prologue. You can also choose to have it be something that happens off screen. Shape your story however you like. All right, so my face kind of stayed about the same. Okay, there we go. I think at that point I just committed to my hair being committed to the locks. Yeah, a lot darker. At that point, I done figured out how to really dye my hair. Yeah, my glasses were like square and more of a that was more still about that color. And I do have a septum, so there's that. Yay. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that's still about right. And I'm probably more into like a darker color hoodie at this point. Yeah. Yep, I'm satisfied. Let's go, y'all. I'm still short. That hasn't changed. Rose. Yeah. Yeah, I still call my ma. I'm still going with the mushroom sticker. Winter was a world of its own. The place you had gone to sleep, Ma wished more than once that people could hibernate until the spring, the way bears did. Snow up a mountain was worse than anywhere else in the state. It took hold of you whenever you went outside, trying to tug your shoes straight off of your feet. That season, the cul-de-sac kids got rides to and from school. Chiyo's mom and Granny took turns. They would take you in the morning and get you again in the afternoon. On lucky days, Mr. Lin would be the one who came at the end of the day, and sometimes your own ma could do it. Then there was one time there had been a huge misunderstanding, and the person who pulled up in front of your school, Mr. Bayamon, it was a nightmare. That Nutcracker ballet recital happened. Chiyu stole the show. Really, it was hard for anyone else to follow along with a kid who made moves up as they went along. The teacher had said not to stop no matter what. That's what she got. The other Mr. and Mrs. Bayamon came to visit for the first time for their daughter's favorite holiday, Christmas. Her parents showed up in Golden Grove with bags over their shoulders and glasses on their face. Tamarack looked just like them. She looked miserable. They left after New Year's, only those two. Tamarack didn't go with her mom and dad. She stayed with her Omi and Oppa. When the year wasn't so new anymore, you graduated elementary school. Mom brought you to the diner table to celebrate after your first day of middle school. She always did. The two of you eventually reached regular status in that establishment. It hoped that Yusef, the friendly manager, became the new owner when the original one retired. He recognized you and Ma from the beginning. Yusef had been earnest when he'd said everybody in town were basically neighbors. He might not have been next door, but you couldn't help getting to know him as much as you know an adult anyway. Days and weeks and months and the time took rest of your shoulders, and they kept coming. A couple more years and you weren't even a kid anymore. You emerged from a pile of torn off calendar pages as a teenager. Add one extra year and you graduated again. At 14 years old, you were about to begin high school. Messing around would not be worth the amount of trouble you would get in now. Following the rules are always the smartest. Life might have changed rapidly for you, but it seemed like once you hit certain points of being old, stuff stayed consistent much longer. Ma and Mr. Lin had the same jobs. Mrs. Bayamon kept on being retired. Mr. Bayamon continued to pretend he was retired while working on the side. But that wasn't the only way to go. Mrs. Lin had new opportunities ahead. While her only child prepared for 9th grade, she was getting ready to rejoin the workforce. You met brand new people as you got older, and you were granted more freedoms. Serenity, Vicina, and many other schoolmates. Tamarack's social circle expanded too. You could fill several novels with memories of a little girl in her neighborhood on her own with you, Chiyu, or both of you. And she was still around, but Tamarack had a lot more to consider these days than she should be in her backyard or the forest clearing. There were also people you didn't meet. The infamous boys club disbanded a long time ago. What? Xulin, Ren Murray, Baxter Ward, and you. Ren went by Ren only and had for a year called him by his full name was strange. Not even Ren's parents did that. The relationship between Wei and Ren was a not thread of history. Sometimes it's tense, sometimes it's slack, but it had yet to snap. It was different when it came to Baxter. Their shared friendship with him ended. What? Officially, he dyed his hair dark gray hair to pure black and stopped coming around after a while. What? The age gap between him and the rest of you was a chasm that couldn't be crossed anymore. You didn't remember the last time Baxter had been on Acorn Road. Yeah, I'm heartbroken. You'd outgrown it personally. It'd be silly to call. Well, rest in peace, Boys Club. After the group disbanded, when Chiyu no longer held a club that was named after being a boy, you began to realize something. They weren't a boy. Chiyu wasn't sure how they identified, but they could say definitely it wasn't that. For now, all people needed to know was not to call them by anything gendered. The news spread the entire time ahead of school coming into session. Summer vacation didn't last forever. Days of sunshine grew short and cold. Gray clouds gathered on the horizon, and then fall settled over Golden Grove once again. The storybook-esque depiction of autumn went to a very root of the forest and the heart of the town as the whole land glistened in its namesake color. It's been nearly 4 years to the day since you moved there, in the tan house with the white picket fence at the center of the cul-de-sac. The trees grew in taller and thicker. Ma got a chair for the porch, and the mailbox had been replaced for an incident. But other than that, not much had changed with the outside of your home. You might have said the building was worse for wear after nearly 1,500 extra days of weathering the elements, but for how old it already was when you got there, that was nothing. Nothing for a house pushing 40 anyway. 40 years of your life was closing in. 40, Jesus Christ. 4 years of your life was closing in on a third of your existence. And that first third, you could scarcely remember since you were a baby and then a toddler for most of it. So it worked out that nearly half of the memories you made kept were from right here in the house, in this neighborhood, in this town. You lived in this one place longer than anywhere. Hell on earth is crazy. It was a simple norm of nothing more, nothing less. There was nothing you were more grateful for than that. The thought that you could have been somewhere other than Golden Grove for all this time made you shudder more than the coldest of autumn nights. You realized it even at 10 years old. The feeling had settled over you like a comfy blanket since the first fall. This place was home. You've been down each path and road, seen every bush and tree, entered all the publicly accessible buildings hundreds of times. There was something indescribably precious about that. It couldn't be replaced or replicated. Though that didn't mean the world was static. There was shifts that rippled out and impacted your experience, but each one felt natural. The transition of seasons brought about an entirely different atmosphere. There were sights and sounds and feelings that could only happen during a few months before they were gone for a year. Other familiarities were lost to time for good, never to come back, but instead of their absence to eventually become old in their own right. You knew that acorns were beginning to fall along with the leaves, and that Bob's barbershop on Main Street closed 8 months ago, and that every day there was a new rumor on what was going to be replace it. Nothing concrete had been announced yet, but any day now for sure. Mr. Spayamon was stubbornly convinced it had to be a restaurant, an Italian restaurant. The town needed one of those, she would insist. Yeah, that was less about what she thought would actually happen and more what she wished it would be. Circumstances were never as perfectly straightforward as stuff that was the same and things that were different, or what you could be certain of and what you were believing in. You could have a piece of your world that had been ever present, something that hadn't gone away for a moment, yet right before your eyes it could stop being what you'd originally known. The example that came to mind that you had been imagining from the beginning was your left and right next door neighbors. Both Shiyu and Tamarak were the same people you'd seen basically every day for 4 years. No single one of those days did you decide they weren't Tamarak or Shiyu anymore. Of course, they always were literally who they were. But after everything they'd learned and seen from the basic concept of getting older, and the two were pulled in certain directions, little by little, it could be caught looking back a few weeks or a month. Still, if you pause to remember them from your first meetings and compare that to who you expect to encounter that day, you could see clearly, starkly, they changed. First, the company of your youth, Mr. Lin, they didn't introduce themselves like that to people anymore. Whether a person could spell their name or not wasn't their problem. If someone didn't know that, then they didn't know Shiyu. And why should they care what a stranger believed about them? The only part of themselves they made sure to spell out were the pronouns they, them. He was born and raised in Golden Grove, local through and through. And not merely any kid in town. They were the one to take certain stage, the one to reach out. Shiyu made themselves ever present in the minds and hearts of the community. Every person Shiyu had to cross paths with would have thoughts about who they were based on the gender that they had been assigned to them at birth. If they wanted to be free of that misconception, you had no choice other than to keep explaining again and again to person. They hated it. Going around introducing themselves in a way so people wouldn't immediately get it, could still put things together, was cute and everything when they were in elementary school. As a ninth grader, it was embarrassing. A lot of what you believed in as a kid seemed to just now kid stuff. And at the tippy top of their list of childish ideals was the very concept of trying. You stopped putting in effort with their classes. They started skipping ballet lessons, didn't go out of their way to make others feel welcome. No, they rebuffed nearly everyone who dared wish for time in their presence. If Shiyu didn't already like someone, 0 opportunities would be given for the option to change. Despite going from the most approachable face in town to completely unavailable, Shiyu remained exceedingly popular in school. The chill that overtook their demeanor only made them cooler, apparently. I'm kind of digging the long hair. The short hair is nice too. Started from step 2, a new option is available: jealousy. You and the leads will begin to not jealous towards each other by default, but you can choose to be envious of or jealous over the lead if you're friends or crushes. If your neighbor's jealousy alterations will only occur in game if you become friends or crush mid-step. You can also set your relationship to best friends here. You can only be best friends with one lead per step, but it can be platonic or while crushing. Being best friends doesn't stop you from being friends or crushing with the other lead. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, we're crushing. I'm kind of adulting now, teasing teamwork. He's so cute. Praising? I think I'll do teasing, and then I'll do praising. He's a follower, prefers to go with the flow. Compromiser, prefers to be the leader, decision maker, contesting. Okay. So he's more of a teamwork. Goes out of their way or to casually or potentially flirtatiously compliment you. Likes to make jokes or give you a hard time. Yeah. Yeah, because we're kind of both doting on each other. But that drama was nothing to you. If Shiyu didn't want to go above and beyond to be friends with everyone in the world, then they shouldn't have to. They could be snippier, they could be more sarcastic, so what? Shiyu meant a lot to you. They always had, ever since you were 10. Shiyu made you feel like you mattered from the start, and that hadn't faded, even when they closed themselves off to people more and more. You done what you could to be something beyond a fair weather acquaintance for them. And you couldn't lie to your own heart. You had a crush on them. That was what made them such a meaningful existence in your world. You were head over heels for them. It was mutual, as they had a crush on them too. You never said as much, but you had neither. That didn't mean it wasn't true. And it was for you and them. Were positive. He was happy to drape himself over you completely. There was no reason to stay at a distance. Now, second and childhood best friend, Miss Tamarack Bayamon, she had become a young lady. Her reckless romps through the woods shifted into a quiet nature walks. The neat clothes she had carefully selected weren't suited for that kind of exploring anyway. And she was not okay with them getting full of holes like she was as a kid. She approached some things in life with great delicacy, like she was living in a world of glass, or less whimsically, as if she was always walking on eggshells. Tamarack joined the music program during middle school and had played the cello ever since, a feat that required plenty of patience and a ton of sitting around. But all those new options, priorities, and decisions didn't speak to any level of decisiveness on her part. It wasn't just the loss of pure wild abandon only someone too young to know better could have. Tamarack didn't have a shred of the certainty she used to. Some days, in some ways, she could come across more like her almost 70-year-old grandparents than a girl not even a quarter of their age. In other moments, she leaned into typical teenager priorities more than anyone else in her class, and neither seemed to make her particularly confident. What bits and pieces were truly Tamarack? Maybe all of them, maybe none. He hadn't managed to convince most people that there were a clear picture they could accept and understand as her. Probably because she didn't understand herself either, or she could bring herself to commit to what she did. So 4 years on, and she'd yet to blend into the harmony of the so-called Nick community. If Tamarack was in a room, odds were good she'd be the least acquainted person there. Whenever she went, Miss Bayamon carried her with the presence of a visitor, never a regular. Oh, she has braces now. That's so cute. But there were some truths that no one doubted. She could count on you, and you could do the same with her. You didn't care what the town thought. Tamarack was the greatest friend you had in your entire life. She wasn't some nobody. She was the little girl who threw a paper plane at you the first time she ever caught sight of you. Tamarack and you went through being newcomers side by side. No matter how much time passed, no matter how much the two of you grew up, the promise you made to always be friends would not be broken. Together, you'd make it through whatever future unknowns you might face. You and Tamarack hugged and held hands. You were okay being close in whatever way. Ah, we're officially at step 2. Oh my God. All right, so I'm actually going to cut it here, guys, and we're going to pick up right where we left off next Missy Monday. So thank you for joining me on this part for our Life Now and Forever demo update, and I'll catch you next time. Oh, please don't forget to like and subscribe so I can bring you more content. The more you interact, the more I'm able to bring you guys content, and it helps my family out tremendously. But I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.